What's up, everybody? It's Fitz. Welcome back to the Let's Argue podcast. Little switch up today. Usually we do live streams on Friday evening, but switching it up, doing it in the morning today. Just want to say thank you to everyone who's hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, commented, engaged with the content. We're really picking up traction here, and people are starting to understand a little bit more the importance of what we're doing on this channel. Make sure if you have not gone and watched any of my other content where I'm doing skits, where I'm doing analysis, go check that content out. I'm also going to start doing more of a deep dive on some of these topics in separate videos outside of the live stream where I do an analysis, really show you my research skills. That's what my background is research. I do have a master's degree in sociology, bachelor's in psychology. So I'm used to the deep diving into literature, deep diving into academic papers and pulling out insights, pulling out what's actually going on in terms of the quantitative side of it, the qualitative side of it, and what is being used to create policy, right? Because that's what happens. These researchers, academia, they do research projects, and then Congress or whoever and businesses, they use this research to make decisions. So I want to start highlighting that and bringing that in to the conversation, right? So here's how things go on these live streams. We usually give our monologue, we come up, we react to things, and if you want to come up and join the panel, we give you a chance to do that. Typically, we wait until after we've done the reaction to do that. So we're going to give our monologue, and then we're going to put the link in the description. And if you want to come up and give your perspective, by all means, but we're going to get through our monologue and then come up. So today, what are we talking about? Today, we're talking about Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate being arrested again, a California police shooting of a 15-year-old who apparently is autistic based on what I'm reading, and mental health in the Black community. Mental health in the Black community. We're going to tie all those things in. So let's get into it. I'm going to bring Ty up.
Yo,
we got Ty in the building.
What's cracking?
Got the vest on. Don't tell me that's a North Face.
Huh? This? Oh, the jacket? No, let me. Do I have it on here? Wait.
You ain't go to the outlets and get that?
So on the wrist. What you know about that?
Butter.
What you know about that, boy?
Going back to your roots. See.
Hey, it's cold out here, brother. Probably got about a foot and a half, maybe, give or take. Hey.
A foot and a half?
Also.
So you got 12 inches.
This guy. Pause. See what you're trying. Oh, there you go. Pulled up. When I came in, I was like trying to put my name on there, boy.
Yeah, I had taken it off.
I mean, you can take it off if you want to. It don't matter.
Well, no, I had taken it off in a different video, and then because I have multiple.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry.
Multiple entities that I'm running off of here.
My bad.
You know, so just switching it up. Let the people know how you're doing.
I'm doing good, man. Like I said, it snowed, so we've been chilling in the house for a little while, making some videos. We just made a few videos this morning. So you guys want to see that, hop on the Instagram page _Wolfwagon_. You'll see my dogs going a little crazy in the snow and them being off lead and recall and things of that nature. So hit your boy up for all the dog training tips and needs. We got the blog every week. Just dropped one on Monday, K9 Chronicles. Check that out. Hit the Instagram link in the bio. It's on my link tree, K9 Chronicles. Yeah.
All right. Before we get into it, there has to be an elephant in the room that's addressed. Okay. For the first time on the Let's Argue podcast, the people can clearly see you.
This guy, bro. Yo, what you mean?
Even though you had a chin.
Well, I switched the desk. So I put it facing the window so the light can come in.
Mhm.
And I mean, you can see me clearly now and everything, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and it's daylight too, so
Yeah.
we
Yeah, we
usually
usually
do
did it
it.
at night, so the light I have in my room is like trash, I guess.
Yeah, pause. You forgot
This
to
guy.
pause.
This guy. Yo, resume.
Flipping.
This man got a Dallas Cowboy hat on his head. Why would you wear
Yeah.
that garbage?
Hey, just representing. We did my my grandpa's memorial last night, so I had to dig out his favorite team, and
Yo.
this is my dad's hat, but you know my grandpa likes the Cowboys, so
Okay.
dug it out.
Shout out to G Pop. I'll let it slide for today because they made some uh certain calls in the past couple of days with their team, letting people go, not drafting the right people. So we'll let it
Nah,
slide.
that the explanation I gave sounds good. All that is true, but just trying
Boy,
to.
hey. I look like I got some BBs in his head now.
I woke up late and I was like, I ain't got time to, freshen up the lineup. So
What you drawing it on now?
nah, they tried to get me to draw on because my hairline grows too far onto my forehead. Like I have extra hair, so I got to keep on cutting it backwards every 2 or 3 days, which I guess a lot of men go bald. I'm not having that issue. My dad didn't really have that issue.
What you mean
My
cut it back
grandpa.
2 or 3 days? What you talking about?
Like, so my hairline, if I didn't like cut it back, this part right here that you see, it would be like up here and it would grow in right here.
Does it grow like with some thickness? Pause.
Yeah, like it grows like the rest of my hair.
Okay.
Like my hair like doesn't naturally have the block
So do
lineup.
they?
It's like they used to call me rainbow lineup. So like it would naturally, it goes like this.
Right.
Like the Rocky Mountains. It's like
You don't like that? You like the square?
yeah, I like the square.
Hey, I was asking, brother.
I'm out here looking like an orphan with my regular lineup.
Yo.
Can I get a lineup, please?
Yo. What
They
are you
used to
talking
be
about?
like,
Look at this. Look. I mean, mine's starting to grow out more now. This is probably like 2 years worth of growth. It look like I got a weave on, bro. Look at this.
I wouldn't doubt it, brother.
Lace
You
front.
never know. You got a head BBL.
Yep.
You got a BBL on your forehead.
A hair unit.
Yep, a man unit.
Mm-hmm.
A man unit. We got Sean in the building. What up, Sean? We're gonna get through the monologue, and if you want to come up after we get through the monologue, feel free. We'll drop the link in a little bit. But we gotta react to these videos, and then we'll have people come up if anyone wants to come up. Said not an orphan. Yes, I have an orphan hairline. Right? That's what I have. An orphan hairline because nobody wants it. All right.
Stupid. Yo. we get canceled. We get canceled.
Got an orphan hairline. Nobody wants this orphan hairline.
We get
all right.
That's right.
So today, what are we talking about? Andrew Tate, mental health, and police shooting in California. So first, I want to react to this story of Andrew Tate being arrested again. Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate being arrested again. There's a video where they're going to kind of explain what's going on. But for those of you who don't know, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate, I think around 2022, I think in 2022, they were initially being investigated for a crime. They were arrested or detained or whatever, but then they found no evidence, so they let them go. But the case remained open in Romania. Then in 2022, December, they were arrested and detained without being charged with anything for 3 months while they sat in jail. And I guess in Romania, they don't need to find evidence first in order to charge you or in order to hold you in jail. In America, they cannot hold you in jail for a prolonged period of time without charging you with a crime. In Romania, they can hold you up to, I think, like it's like 3 to 6 months, I believe, without actually charging you with the crime. So that means that maybe they think that you stole some Tide Pods from the store and they don't have proof yet. They don't have no video record. They don't have any evidence, but they can come to your home and say, hey, you're going to come sit in jail while we get evidence that you did this crime, right? And after that's done, I guess you don't, if there's no evidence that's found, I don't know if there's any repercussions or whatever, but that's their situation. They've been charged officially now with the crime, but in this new arrest, it was not Romania that had a warrant out for them. It was the UK, United Kingdom, right? The United Kingdom issued a warrant, and then they asked Romania to detain the Tate brothers and said, look, these guys, they're out on house arrest or whatever. Go and go and arrest them or whatever and hold them in jail until after their trial in Romania, which could be years from now. And then after that, extradite them back to the UK or whatever to face trial here. They got arrested and the judge threw it out. The judge threw it out and said, no, we're not going to hold them in jail for the UK. So that's where we're at. But I want to pull up this video and we can react to their response, because I know there's a lot of people saying, you know, well, they should be in jail or they've done something wrong. And
I thought Andrew was from the States.
So he was they were born in the United States. And then like when they were like 7, 8, their mom was born in the UK, I believe. When they were 7 or 8, they moved to Luton in the United Kingdom or whatever. And then they grew up there. So essentially they claim like they have citizenship in both places, I believe.
So yeah, dual citizenship. Okay. Because I was curious. I'm like, if he's, you know, why he ain't coming back here?
Well, the USA, I think they tried to get help from the embassy, United States. They didn't want to.
This man got his shirt off, bro. Yo.
That's how he is in all of it.
That boy be turned, man.
Long day?
Long day.
Well, certainly been an interesting one. We've had less interesting days.
I wouldn't say it was unexpected. In fact, it was hyper predictable. The way the Matrix operates is actually an extremely predictable apparatus. And for anybody at home that doesn't understand exactly how these things work, let me make it clear. As soon as you become annoyance to the power structures, as soon as they deem you an enemy to their narratives, which they're trying to purport upon the population, what they do is they assign prosecutors to go through your entire life and try and find crimes you are guilty of. And most of you at home don't understand that all of you, if you are a full-grown man, are guilty of crimes, because what they do is they lie by omission and they find garbage and try to wreck your life with it. For example, they will contact every single one of your ex-girlfriends and say to them,
do you agree with that? Like that men are under attack? I mean, that's kind of what I took away from what he's saying right there is men are under attack, and that, yes, there are laws and things like that. And when we think of criminal behavior, we think of the big stuff, but that if someone were to dig into your life, they could get you on a technicality.
Yeah, I think for the States, I don't know about the rest of the world, but for the States, yeah, I think men are under attack. Well, good. Men that push against the status quo. I'd say that. I ain't gonna say all men, but men that push against the status quo and want to keep the masculine men alive are targeted, especially in the States. I can't speak for, like, when I went to Germany and Serbia and all these other places, like, it wasn't, the masculine man wasn't devalued as much as it is in the States. Like, I seen more masculine men overseas than I did here, that I have here in the States.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, but there's a story out where in Canada, which Canada has banned the use of guns, I believe, for citizens.
Correct. Well, yeah, you can apply for one. So,
but it's more difficult.
But you have to go through like almost like a CEI process.
Right. I don't think it's a right there. If I'm correct,
Right, yeah.
The right to bear arms is not a right there like it is in the United States, which is why it's so hard for them to take our guns, is because it's a right. And I don't think people understand that. But in Canada, they are telling people, hey, leave your car keys by the front door. Because when people break into your homes with guns, they're not trying to harm you. They just want your car keys. This is what they're telling Canadian people. Leave your car keys by your front door so that if somebody breaks into your home, they just take the car keys and take the car and go about their way. Right. And it's like, I understand on one side of it, you're trying to protect people. You're saying, hey, look, if these people are going to break in your home anyways, and we're not going to do anything about it, and we're not going to make laws to where you can do something about it, leave your keys right there so you don't get hurt. But then the question becomes, at what point do you say you have the right to protect yourself? At what point do you criminalize the person that's breaking into the home? To me, that's like telling a cop, leave your gun at home or leave your gun in the car when you go and try to arrest somebody, because the person that has the gun, they're only going to shoot at you because they think you have a gun and they don't want to get shot first. So you leave your gun at home, you leave your gun in the car because they only want to shoot you because they think you have a gun, right? But they're not doing that. It's just regular citizens. So yeah, just leave your keys out, leave your wallet out, kidnapper wants to come take your kids. Hey, just leave them at the swing at the park, and you go sit in the car while somebody kidnaps your kid, because all they want is your kid. Like, is that it? Is that it? Like, how expensive is a car? Like, some of these cars, a basic car, you could be paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That could be somebody's like half of their salary for a year or whatever. And they've worked years to pay off that car. So I'm supposed to give somebody years of my life just to go make a police report so you guys can find my car trashed and I don't get any money back from it. So it's like, yeah, I think that especially men, that masculinity is under attack, because to me, that's pretty much like asking men not to defend their houses.
Right.
And like giving an out, like we told you to leave your keys by the front door. So when you stab the dude in the neck for trying to take your car, you're going to prison.
Dumb.
You can have 50,000 pounds and we'll keep you anonymous. We won't show your name. We won't show your face. You will have no repercussions at all for lying. And we will pay you money to say this man did something 10 years ago. So long ago, there can be no proof whether he did it or not. And we're going to use that as justification to try and damage this man. And what's so insane is that we were arrested yesterday.
Yeah, I could tell everyone at home exactly why we were arrested as well. You see, they pretend that they're serious. Let me tell you what would happen if I were a serious criminal under a serious investigation. And by serious, I mean real. I would have been trialed. You get a trial, Andrew.
Oh, you get a trial?
Yeah, no. So what happens is they obviously arrest you and they have lots of evidence on you. And then you get a trial and then they found you guilty and then you go to jail. And you stay in jail to serve your sentence.
Okay.
So what happened to us originally, for those of you who don't know the story, is we got jail first. Okay.
Okay.
The search for evidence afterwards.
Okay.
Then charges.
Okay.
Then the evidence is all being dismissed. So if there's a trial, there's no evidence. But we've been in some form of arrest for the entire period. So no matter what happens, we've served a long sentence. And that's what happens when you don't have a serious criminal investigation. And yesterday.
So that's what I was talking about earlier, where they were locked up for months and now they're still, technically locked up. They're just on house arrest. And for part of that, they weren't even charged with the crime. Can you imagine? Like, you're chilling at home and the police come to your door and they say, hey, one of your exes says you did something to them. And then you get hauled off for 6 months, 3 to 6 months in jail without being charged, just off of the word of an ex. I think that's where we're headed. Maybe not to that degree, but I do think that with like the Me Too movement and just some of the things that are happening when it comes to masculinity, that more and more pressure is going to be put on police and judges to just believe what women say, regardless of whether there's evidence or not. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it with Jonathan Majors, right? Had a whole video of him running away from a woman, right? Trying to get her off of him, and obviously didn't physically beat her, wasn't verbal to her that we know of, right? And still got charged with domestic violence. So I think going forward in the future is just going to be like, well, if she said it, she said it, you're going to jail. And that's what my mentor told me is like, it doesn't have to be true. It only has to be said.
Well, I, sir, say that you. No, I mean, I think, what do you think that means for the future of like dating or marriage, things like that? Do you think that that's positive, a negative, like society in general? How do you think that that's going to impact it?
I think you're going to see a decrease in marriages. I think you're going to see maybe a decrease in dating for particular populations. I think for the people who are pushing this narrative, like you said, with the hashtag Me Too, people like that, I think it's going to be more tailored to their needs and to support them rather than the average man and woman traditional household. I think that's going to take a hit because it's going to be more tailored towards them. I think at this point, I mean, you can't even, from what I've seen, this is social media, but you can't even really say certain things or do certain things without it being sexual assault, rape. Like it's almost like you gotta walk on eggshells and be like the perfect person, right? And I'm not saying those things are, I'm not trying to dismiss those things or invalidate them, but I think we misconstrue those two concepts, and people don't have that common sense like they should compared to like back in the day. And now everything is just, it's this, is that, and this, and it's like, it's gaslighting. Like that's a new thing, and I hate when people say that.
No, that's a good point. And I think one of the things that's going on with the Me Too movement is similar to what happened in the Black community, where the Black community was fed a victim mentality and we were told that we can't do anything and we were told that white people were our problems. I think the same thing is being fed to women, where they're being told that men are their problems. They're being told that anytime a man makes a joke or anytime a man does something that is typically assigned to masculinity, that is an attack on you, that is a threat to you, and that your main problem as a woman is a man. You're not making the type of money you want to make because of man. You're not happy in your relationship because of man. The world is messed up because of a man. When in the Black community, Black women, you're single mothers because Black men ain't shit. Your whole problem in life comes down to some man somewhere holding you back, in the same way that Black people, especially during an election year, and you'll see this more and more, and we'll talk about it later in this video, where Black people are told that white people are their problems. I think that we're seeing the same play being ran on women. Men are your problem. And when you believe that men are your problem, not that man, but men, then you go into these situations with a bad attitude. You go into dating with a bad attitude. You go into job interviews or certain situations with the mindset that this man is trying to take advantage of me. When he opens the door for you, you think he's being misogynistic and saying you're too weak to open the door. When he gives you a simple compliment, you think that he's sexualizing you. When when he puts his foot down and says, no, this is the way things are going to go, and he tries to lead, you think that that is him trying to control you, but he's actually just operating in his masculinity. But the problem is too many females have not been taught how to operate in their femininity as well. And I'll give the opposite side and say that too many men are not being taught how to operate in their masculinity. So it's all out of whack. It's out of whack on both sides. But I don't think that the solution is to just say men are guilty no matter what. Let's not look at the context. Let's not use common sense. Let's just go with what the woman says because we don't want to piss anyone off.
Right. Yeah. Does the Me Too thing stem from the feminism? Is that like the basis for it?
For what?
The Me Too movement, like, is the feminism the basis for that? Like,
so there's different waves of feminism. Think of like there's first wave feminism, second wave. I believe we're in third wave feminism right now, but I think it started out where it was, feminism was based on, hey, women can't vote, women can't do these things, right? We just want equal rights. Right? We still want to be women. We still see ourselves as women, but we want certain things. It's like, we are playing on the playground and we want to be able to play foursquare too. We're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone can see, like, okay, they're not allowed to play. They should be able to play. Cool. I think that's first wave feminism. Then it moves into second and third wave, where it starts to morph into, not only do we want to play on the playground, but we don't want men on the playground because men are the problem.
Right.
And then it's like, well, no, now we want to be men. Now we want to be men because there's actually no difference between men and women. That is the ideology that I see being pushed right now. It went from we want to be equal to men to more of a men are the problem, and we want to do everything that men can do, even though we're not men. So we want to be able to go, and I'm not advocating for this, but we want to go be able to sleep with anyone that we want to and have multiple sexual partners, and there's no consequence, even though we're women and our bodies bear children, and that there are those consequences. Like that's just one example. Or, well, we're women and we're not designed to necessarily go out and provide and protect in the same way that men are. But if a job, for instance, says, hey, no, we're not giving maternity leave and things like that, you still want to get paid as much as the men who don't take leave and stay there and work 70, 80 hours a week. Things like that. Like you want to be equal to men, but you don't want to do what men do. And so I think that's where that's my analysis of what's going on.
Yeah. I was wondering because I heard about the Me Too movement, but I didn't dive deep into it. But I figured it was built off of some of the feminism tactics. And I think for women or men, just everybody in general, if you look at the history of what men and women did back in the day, and I'm not talking about like 1650, I'm talking about go back to 1800s or 1900s, and you'll see that everybody played a role in the family dynamic. Women did the more feminine things, men did the more masculine things, going outside, getting dirty, camping out, killing animals, those things. Women did more of the I guess you could say mental and emotional side of it, and men did the more physical side. So it was never, well, men are better than women. Guarantee you have some of that. You had some of that in some families. But that's just based off their dynamic. That's not really everybody itself. And I think people try to take that piece and cherry pick it and generalize the whole thing. But if you really look at history, everybody had a role. Hell, even some of the women hunted if they wanted to. Like at some point, the men were dying off at a higher rate, so the women started to join the hunts, and they did the same thing men did, but they still were expected to uphold uphold their responsibilities, collecting the herbs, having kids. They were amazing at making stuff by hand. So it's like everybody had a role, and now it's more of like, well, I'm not gonna have a kid. I'm not gonna be cooking and doing. Bro, those are basic survival skills. You say your mama didn't teach you how to cook, but you know how to. But your mama didn't teach you that either. Priorities, brother. Priorities.
Well, Sean says something, and maybe you can come up a little later after we get through the monologue, Sean, and defend this. But I'm going to give some pushback because Sean says, and to be fair, men weren't ish back in the day, and still in today times, men aren't. That's what it cuts off, but men aren't. I'm going to give pushback because I hate when people say that men aren't ish because men built the world, though. Like the world that we live in was pretty much built by men. Men did the construction. Men laid the foundation for homes. Men did the dangerous jobs and laid and did the railroads and did all of the dangerous things that in a specific group of men, by the way, did all of the dangerous things so that we could have the world that we're in. So what are we like? What's the benchmark for saying that men ain't ish? Is it when it comes to women? What is it? So he says built by men, not for women. I would disagree that the world was not built for women because men, there's no, like back in the day, right? Men did everything for women. Men went, as a matter of fact, there's a book that I read, I think it's called Labor's Love Lost. There were men where it was considered shameful if your woman had to go out and work. There were men that would get 2-3 jobs just so their woman did not have to go out and work. Like it was considered shameful for her to have to go out and work. If that's not for women, I don't know what is. There are like in my grandpa's time growing up, and we had a conversation about this recently. He said, for 50 something years, 55 years, married to my grandma, he would go get the money, give it to her, give her the check, and she would pay all the bills. She would handle all the money. She would do that. It was a team venture. So when she passed away, he didn't know what to do with the money. Like he didn't know about bills, auto pay, anything. So it's like she had her role and he had his role, and she was very happy. As a matter of fact, just to give an example of, the thinking of women of that time or the way they thought of it, we were having a conversation one time and my grandma was talking about, because the topic of cheating came up. And, we were talking and she was saying, you know what? I don't doubt that he did cheat on me. This is her speculating. I don't doubt that he did cheat on me, but I don't care. And at the time I didn't care because guess what? He's coming home to me. He's coming home being a father to my children. He's coming home paying the bills for us. He's coming home. And back then it was valued that a man was coming home to you. And I don't think that that's valued anymore, that a man is coming home because of this narrative that men ain't ish. Well, if men ain't ish, we see what happens when men are not in the home. 75% of kids in the Black community raised by a single mother, we see the results of that. So obviously men are doing something because when they're in the household, there's less crime, there's less teen pregnancies, there's less suicide. And as a matter of fact, single fathers who I guess aren't ish, those are men. They have similar results in terms of parenting that 2-parent households get. They have similar results. So if we're going to say men ain't ish just because maybe they go out and cheat, what about all the other things that they do? I don't think that trumps everything. I don't think it's like they can do everything right? Like the earth, everything is pretty much perfect on earth, but Earth ain't ish because it don't just grow fried chicken in the desert somewhere. Like, no, it's like for the most part, Earth is the ish, right? So I think we have to be careful when we just say that men aren't ish, women aren't ish, because what are we actually saying? Oh, they went out and cheated. In other words, they went out and did something they are biologically driven to do, not cheat, but go out and sleep and reproduce with as many women as possible. That is a biological drive. So to say that someone is not ish because they do something they are biologically driven to do, I don't think is fair. You know, it is difficult to be monogamous as a man for most men, I would say. So the men that can do it perfectly, round of applause. But the men that aren't perfect in that regard, I don't think that doesn't make them ish. Maybe they just have some things to work on. Maybe they're trying. Like that, there's a difference between being disrespectful about it and just, you know, like that slip up. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I wouldn't say men aren't ish. I think that stems from not a feminine perspective, but in support of women, which I'm cool with that. I think one piece that's missing is the values and morals that a lot of people had back in the day as well. Back then, you know, to be a woman back in the day, I mean, you kind of had it made in a sense, because you got to take care of your kids. You got to invest time in them, make sure they were loved, make sure they were nurtured physically, emotionally, spiritually. Take care of the house. You were able to build stuff with your hands. Now, again, we're talking about women that build stuff with their hands. Not every woman was just sitting at home doing nothing. I think that perspective is kind of flawed, because if you look at history, they were doing stuff. It may not have been highlighted as much as hunting, but weaving baskets, making blankets, preparing food, making like pots and pans, wooden spoons. You know, they were still making stuff at home. They just weren't on these adventures that the men were. So
they didn't have washing machines.
Again,
they didn't have. They were down by a river somewhere scrubbing stuff and do like they had more laborious jobs back then, women, than a lot of men have today.
Yeah,
it was a different dynamic.
I would even say they had the more physical aspect of the labor that they did to keep the village going was a lot harder than the men going to hunt. Realistically,
and here's the difference. Here's the difference. And when it comes to the difference between men now and women back then, or women now and women back then, is like men were seen as a prize back then, right? Mm-hmm. And men viewed women as a prize back then. If you were a man 50 to 100 years ago and you were not married, you were a loser in society's eyes, right? That was the goal, for you as a man to go out and be a great provider for your family. And as a woman, the goal was for you to go out, be a great woman, so a man that is looking for a wife has one. And I'm going to tell you something. Many women back then, they were on the hunt for a man. This was no joke. Like we talk about hunter-gatherers, women back in the day, they were on a hunt for a good man. They were hunting. Women today are like, I'm not going, he needs to walk up to me. He need to do this. He need to play these games. He need to, if he take me to Cheesecake Factory. Listen, I was talking recently because my grandpa passed away recently, and we were going over memories. And my grandmother's brother, right? My grandma's brother says, make no mistake, your grandpa had a girlfriend at the time, and my grandmother stole him from her. My grandma, while my grandpa was in a relationship with another girl, came along and pretty much strong-armed her way, like, nah, you my man. And she did what she had to do, and that resulted in a 55-plus year marriage, right? Because she took one look at my grandpa and was like, that's a great man. I need him. And she did what she did. Like, it was like, hey, I want that man. Let's see who he wants more. Let's see who he wants more. So I say that to say women back then thought differently about men. Women were on the hunt for men. Women valued men. And we always talk about, well, husbands were allowed to hit their wives and husbands went and did this. Okay. No, am I saying that husbands should have went and hit their wives? No. But what I am saying is there was a 55-year marriage. Just like back in the day, my dad would tell me, your grandpa now is different than when he raised us. When he raised us, we was getting hit with switches. And he was on, like, he would be like, there are some days that I wish that my dad would have gotten in a car accident and never came home. That's what my dad told me about my grandpa, just because that's how strict he was. But if he did those same things today, my dad was like, he probably would have went to jail for child abuse. But my dad even says, if he did not do those things, I probably would have went to jail. I probably would have been a criminal like a lot of my friends and these other things. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but I consistently hear that. The people from that time frame didn't look at it as child abuse. The kids that grew up, a lot of them are thankful that they had that, especially the Black ones who went through the crack epidemic and the crack era and the gangs and stuff emerging. You know, like, a lot of them needed that discipline, even if it was too much at times. It's like the other side of that could have been worse. So I just think that we have to put it in perspective when we talk about the past, and we also have to realize that things have changed. Men are no longer valued. They're no longer seen as the prize. And we see how that plays out.
Right.
We see how it plays out.
Yeah. And I think to add to that, again, the values and morals, right? Like that's a huge piece that they're missing. And people, Black people, anybody in this world, in this country, whatever, you guys got to look at history from different perspectives. Stop looking at European history, because that's what's pushed on a lot of people is European history, the Vikings and that era and things like that. Like they used to beat the hell out of their women, slap them, beat them senseless. But like that's not for everybody. And I think that people have to stop cherry picking. Look at the bigger picture, huh?
I'm Viking.
This guy. So you beating on your wife? That's what you're saying? Yo, I'll call the people on you, boy. I'm gonna call the people on you. But yeah, man, they gotta tighten up.
Oh, y'all want Spanish, Mariah? Yes.
Here she is. Get her, Ice. Get her. But yeah, man, people gotta tighten up, bro. They gotta tighten up. They gotta stop cherry picking and trying to generalize it for everybody, because if you fight with your man and y'all beat on each other, then that's y'all business. I ain't saying that I'm not saying it's right, but y'all gotta do better as a family. You can't just blame it on one person.
Absolutely. All right.
Today's arrest, because I know a lot of people are curious about this. I'm going to summarize exactly what happened and why it happened. This is not the fault of Romania. This is not. This one is not. This came straight from the United Kingdom, my home country. My United Kingdom contacted the Romanians with no intention of extraditing me, with no intention of flying me to England to face questioning or for an open investigation. They contacted Romania and told Romania to do its dirty work. They told Romania to do their bidding, to put these two boys in jail without a trial. I'm going to explain to you how this works. Romania has a system called preventative detention. If you're suspect of a crime, they could put you in jail before you get a chance to explain yourself in court. That's why me and my brother did 3 months in jail last year. England doesn't have this. If I had been extradited to England, I would have went there. They would have questioned me for a few hours, and I would have been completely free. Lived my life in England. Perfectly fine. Wouldn't even need to come back to Romania. The judge said, do you, Tristan Tate, want to be extradited to England? I said, no. I want to stay here and clear my name. But what the UK were really trying to do was not to get me extradited and face questioning and be free in England. They were saying, look, Romania, he's a dangerous criminal because we allege he did something to somebody in 2012. I don't even know who I allegedly did anything to. There's no name on the paper.
No name. Please,
2012.
please understand. A warrant came through saying in 2012.
No, not that. It was more specific than that. It said Tristan committed acts of sexual violence, too rough during sex, to a victim in 2012 between the dates of, do you remember? April and December. 8 months. That's what the paper said. And England said, look, Romania, he's really dangerous. We know you've got him on trial, so don't extradite him yet. But what we want you to do is put him back in prison using your preventative detention system, which we don't have, to lock our citizen up in your underfunded prisons until the date of his trial, which could be a year or two from now. I was this close to a 1 or 2 year prison sentence, unending, maybe 3 years, perma jail. And you know who saved me? A Romanian judge.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. It just goes to, like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it kind of just goes to show the lengths that I guess governments or entities will go to just to not look stupid or to get their way, because something that happened in 2012, by the way, I believe this was something that was brought up in 2012 when they were there, and they dismissed it. Like, they were like, there's nothing here. This was a civil lawsuit. This was not a criminal. They tried to get them on the criminal part, but couldn't in 2012. And then now they're bringing up civil charges, saying pretty much wanting money. Like, we want money.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to arrest them and extradite them for a civil case. It's wild.
It's interesting too, because the women in my time in Europe, the women are a lot different than the States, right? They usually aren't on that type of energy when it comes to men. Like, so it's so weird to hear them say to even say this, because it's like European women are a lot different than American women in terms of everything, including sexual activities. Like, they're way beyond with different sexual stuff during their activities with men. So it's weird to hear them say, he might have choked a woman too hard. Like, we won't get into too much to that, but it's different.
Hey, maybe you maybe they ran into a straggler.
I don't know.
Who thought, I don't know her thought process, and I'm sure her thoughts are more eloquently put together than mine, but she thought this is a load of crap. And she said no. She said no, you can't. I know the mainstream media are saying a judge said that they can be extradited after. No. The judge said this: I am not putting these boys in jail, because I spent the last 30 hours in jail again, back in the same jail. I'm free. The judge said, release these men. I am not going to put them in jail. They can stay free if your investigation is still going on when this is over, then you can have them. They're your citizens. If your investigation is still going on when this concludes, then I'll send them back. But until then, no, I'm not going to lock these men up in jail. A Romanian judge this morning saved me from a 2 or 3 year open-ended perma jail sentence.
Now, what's interesting about the UK doing this is, one, I don't know how much has been leaked to the media or how much is said on Twitter, because my brother and I have to be careful. But just so everybody at home understands, Romanian case is falling apart because it's garbage, and we're soon going to be completely free men.
Of course, that's
because we're innocent. The UK know this. They must have heard, our matrix attack in Romania has failed. So we now need a matrix attack against them in the UK, but we have a big problem. They haven't even lived in England for 10 years.
I haven't lived in England for a decade.
So how do we drum up cases? Well, we do have a case which we've already closed. Let me give you the rundown of this case. In 2012, a girl got very drunk in my apartment. I've said this publicly before. She drank too much alcohol and threw up everywhere. I then kicked her out of the house and said, get out. You made a mess and you've been sick everywhere. She then said, you owe me money. She started texting me, threatening me, saying if I don't give her £5,000, that she will go to the police
and ruin your life.
I saved all the text messages from this liar. I was then arrested by the British police and thrown in jail on this girl's lies. And the CPS took her phone and found her not only texting me and threatening me and trying to extort me for money, but also planning with her friend how to lie to the police so that we will go to jail. The CPS then threw this case away. Case closed, no further action, innocent men, done. Then this matrix attack happens in Romania, and this girl thinks, I can get money. So she sends a little dork. She hired her lawyer, who's a DNG. He's about this tall, and he runs up to my gate and says,
a DNG, for those of you who don't know, is they label a DNG as an acronym for dork, nerd, geek.
I forgot about
DNG.
Says, my clients want £100,000. Can you give us money and then we'll leave you alone? So I'm not giving you money. It was $5,000. Now it's $100,000. I didn't do anything to you. Go away. So then he's run back to UK and convinced the UK, because we're going to win this case, to turn a case which was closed, which then went into a civil case where they were begging me for money, into criminal charges in an attempt to extradite / remand us in perma jail from an event that I was already cleared of any wrongdoing back in 2012. They reopened it to try and put us in jail because they had nothing else.
I was 23 when this was supposed to have happened.
There is no man on the planet. Please understand this. If you're watching at home, there is no man with dick and balls on this planet. Every single one of his ex-girlfriends who he no longer has contact with was called and offered $50,000 to lie.
Oh, yo, he should have said pause, bro. He said that too aggressively. Too aggressive for me.
Let's see.
Supposed to have happened.
There is no man on the planet. Please understand this. If you're watching at home, there is no man with dick and balls on this planet who, if every single one of his ex-girlfriends who he no longer has contact with was called and offered $50,000 to lie, especially as she has no repercussion, no public face in the media. She doesn't have to walk down the street and worry about people knowing she's a liar. She gets a fake identity, everything. All she gets to do is take the money and talk crap. Who wouldn't take that money, one of the hundreds, and all the 99 who says you're a nice guy, they're ignored, lying by omission. All the ones who say you're a nice man, they ignore all those ones. They take this one who will take the bribe so they can drum up garbage charges from 10 or 12 years ago. Tristan, 12 years ago, in this random period of 9 months, we think you did something. How do you even defend yourself? Against who? There's no name on the paper. Who are you talking about? What location? What time?
What did I do?
What happened? Nothing. Sexual violence. We don't know where. We don't know when. We don't know against who. Maybe at some point in these 9 months, 11 years ago, send this man to jail without a trial. First, they come for us, but they're coming for all of you. And if you're a woman watching this, you have a boyfriend or a son or a father or a brother. He is no longer safe.
That's a lot to unpack. All right, so what do you think about him saying, if you are a man, you're pretty much no longer safe? That this is not going to stop with them. This is going to be applied in general across the board, because there is something called like precedents. So if someone is convicted of something, now there's legal precedents to use that same methodology, that same law against someone else. So if they're convicted of this, even though it's in another place, right? And then let's say that starts happening in the United States, we could be looking at a situation where it's boom, she says something about you 10 years ago. It could be you dated somebody 10 years ago, and now all of a sudden you're on the come up, you have a nice car, big house, you're with your black wife, you know, and now she's mad. She sees the pictures and she's like, you know what? 10 years ago, there was that one time I believe he did something to me. Do you see that happening?
Well, 100%. I think it's already happening here. I think with the younger generation, we see a lot of that popping off. I think with some of the celebrities, they probably have done it though. But with some of the celebrities, you got women coming out 20, 30 years later saying, yeah, old boy said something to me in text message, or he touched me in an inappropriate way. He hugged me the wrong way, or, you know, I think we're already seeing a glimpse of it right now.
There was one story that I heard about Louis C.K. Louis C.K. is a comedian.
Mhm.
And there was one lady, I guess, and Dave Chappelle talks about this in his special, like his comedy special. He's like, there was one lady that is accusing Louis C.K. of masturbating while she was on the phone talking to her, and that messed up her dreams of being like an actress or something like that. And then Dave Chappelle, rightly so, in my opinion, is like, why didn't you just hang up the phone? Like, you know, if you think somebody's doing something on the other side of the phone, just hang up. How difficult is that?
Right.
How difficult is that? So we're going to move into this next topic real quick. But before we do, I'm going to give a breakdown. So we covered the Andrew Tate thing. Look more into that. Very interesting case. Very interesting what's going on, even though it's in Romania and it seems like it may be teetering into the whole UK jurisdiction, possibly later. Interesting to see when that evidence comes out and what will come from that. But as of now, you know, it just seems like it's a coordinated attack. It seems like this is something bigger than we think you committed this crime and we want to bring you to justice. Right? That's my opinion. But moving on to our next topic, there was a 15-year-old black boy in California who was shot and killed by the police. Right? Shot and killed by the police. Now, before you go off the rails and say, black kid, police officer, this was definitely a recipe for disaster. This was white supremacy. This was white people being white people again. This was police hunting down black children. Let me give you the backstory, okay? So this child, 15 years old, apparently is autistic. His parents were the one who called the police. His parents called the police because the child was having an autistic episode, I guess, destroying the house. Parents didn't know what to do. They called the police on their 15-year-old child, hoping the police would intervene, right? And we've seen this story play out time and time again. So the police come to the house, and I'll show you the video, and that's where the video picks up. So let's put this video on. All right. While I pull up this video. All right. Boom. Here we go. Have you seen this?
I've seen the edited version. I didn't see the whole I think they just looped this to where they're showing them running outside. There's 2 cops. That's where it stopped at. I didn't see him actually get shot.
They haven't showed the actual shooting yet.
Okay.
Let's
I
see.
didn't see him get shot.
Get back, you're gonna get shot!
The Sheriff's Department released the video from 2 deputy body cameras. The first angle shows the suspect coming at a deputy with what they say was a garden tool with a sharp-bladed end. The suspect ran toward the deputy with the tool and was shot. The second shows the confrontation from a deputy in the front yard of the home. 15-year-old Ryan Gaynor was taken to a nearby hospital where he died. The department's Special Investigations Division.
That's the 15-year-old, not 54. It says 15 on the screen, but
54-year-old.
it says 15 on the screen. So, I mean, just seeing that, what is your knee-jerk reaction? Just seeing that.
I guess my response would be, why did the family call the police on their son? Or who called the police on their son? Because I think we're automatically going to jump to, well, it's the police fault, white supremacy, discrimination. And the piece in it, the other piece of it was, why didn't the cop just use a taser? Right? Because
that was going to be my next question. Do you think the cop is justified?
Obviously, I'd rather him not take the life if he can avoid it. I think in their policy, I don't know about, and this was in California, so I don't know California's policies in terms of using lethal force or feeling threatened. I don't know what they say, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if you use a gun, he dies automatically, right? Unless you shoot to injure, but they usually teach you shoot to kill. He uses a taser. The kid reacts to the taser, dies because of the voltage, right? Or he falls on the sharp garden tool, slices his neck open, bleeds out. So this was kind of a messed up situation to begin with, because there was no valuable options. You had to just choose the lesser of the two, and they chose to shoot him.
And that this is an important point to make that I think it is not discussed enough. When it comes to police shootings, we have to stop treating every police shooting the same. Now, I'm not saying that we can't recognize patterns. I'm not saying that we can't sit here and hold people accountable. But here's the thing, right? I think people think about police shootings and the way that the police operate and conduct themselves with the community in terms of how regular people do it, and how like a street fight would go, right? Like in a street fight, you supposed to sit there and try to wrestle the tool out of his hand, and they think of fights from like the movies and stuff like that. But in real life, you don't know what can happen. In real life, somebody's charging at you with a knife or a garden tool with a sharp edge on it. You don't know what that's gonna be like. So it's like I try to put myself in the position of, if it was that cop's son, would he respond the same? Like, would his initial reaction be to take his gun out and shoot at them?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that would be the case, if I'm being honest. I don't think that'd be the case. But I will say that with the son, you may still have hope. You may be like, he's not going to do it, or you may try to go the extra mile. But it's not unreasonable for them to then say, okay, this can happen if I don't neutralize this threat, right? So as Sean says, if they're scared, they need to work at the library. So I mean, I think that would apply in certain situations to where they have an elevated sense of fear when there's no real threat, and then they act. But if somebody's coming at you with a sharp garden tool, that can kill you. I don't think that it's, I was just scared and I was just operating off of fear at that point. I think that it's like, there is some portion of fear, like if this thing hits me, I can die. But also, I need to protect myself. And I'm not sure based on the video if it was the officer being chased that shot or the officer watching him being chased that got shot. So yes, the job is dangerous. Sean says the job is dangerous. Well, yeah, it can be dangerous working in a factory, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stick my hand in the machine that's cutting up the ingredients and be like, well, the job is dangerous, so let me go get my arm chopped off just because the job is dangerous. It's like, yeah, the job is dangerous, and that's why the police officers have guns. They have other weapons. They have training and stuff like that. And my understanding is that, you know, oftentimes I try to look at it like, would a regular person who was not a police officer, would they have been justified in that? And I think you would have. Like, yeah, you wouldn't probably be walking in somebody's home, but they were called there. But if somebody's chasing after you with something that can kill you and is trying to hit you with it, I don't know where in the United States you would have been, I guess, guilty of protecting yourself.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Man, I would like to see police officers get more training in terms of tactical work. I think a lot of them are just kind of thrown onto the job without any knowledge of how to maybe disarm or use other non-lethal techniques to prevent from having to use lethal force. And I say that because the mental health part of it, like, dude is going to go home and think about that moment for the next, I don't know, maybe 6 months. Let's just say 6 months. And that's going to be a constant replay in his head over and over and over and over again, because people are going to make a big deal about it and say, well, he was autistic. You should have done this. You should have done that. Or you could have, you know, and we talked about his taser, Sean, about if he did use a taser, what if the kid falls onto the garden tool? Or what if the kid dies from the voltage? We don't know. We don't even know if he had other health problems either.
And another thing with the tasers is they don't always work, especially when people have that adrenaline going through their body.
Yep.
You may not even feel it. And especially when we're talking about a split-second decision where someone is literally like 2 or 3 feet away from you and you like they can kill you.
Right. Yeah. So and I think in to Sean's point about it being dangerous, I mean, we also got to be grateful for the sacrifice that these people are making, because being a police officer or being in any type of social service field, but mainly police officers, they're making a sacrifice to put themselves in danger every single day. Even from a basic traffic stop, they could die. Like, we gotta snap out of the all police are bad and it's white supremacy and things like that, because if we didn't have them, who's going to police the communities? Realistically, right?
Right.
So, because I mean, that's like saying therapists, right? I could be in the room with somebody and they could be pissed off and then eventually put their hands on me, but then I use lethal force or non-lethal force or whatever the case may be. It's still a dangerous job, but I'm still going to do it because this is what I'm doing. But I think we have to have a little bit more respect for that, because they don't get mental health assessments every month. They don't get assessed for the stuff that they see on a daily basis. I mean, yeah, they chose to do it, but I think we have to have a better idea. It's not about extra credit though. Like,
Sean, we're open it up for if you want to come up and give your perspective, because it seems like this is something that there's a fundamental disagreement here. So it might be if you're in the position to come up, I've opened the chat up. If you want to come up, you can, because I think this is an important conversation. We kind of got through our monologue already. So moving into, and I know Ty has to go here soon, so I want to respect his time as well. But yeah, if you want to come up, join the chat live, you're welcome to. But go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, it's not about extra credit. It's about respect. That's the piece that's missing in not only society but with masculine men. We're not showing enough respect to each other. Like, I can respect him, but also give constructive feedback on what could be better with his profession, and that goes for anything. That goes for therapy, goes for DHS workers, police, military. Like, it goes for every aspect. But again, they don't have those resources or get those resources to get assessed, get the extra help if they need it, learn. I'm not really for sure if police task force are spending money to explore other techniques to use over lethal use. And in California, I think in California the taser is considered lethal. I think certain states they consider tasers. Like, I know for Illinois, having a taser is considered a lethal type of like a lethal weapon. So either way, the kid was at a higher risk of dying. It's not to say what happened was right, but he made that call. They made that call, and what they felt was right in the situation. Now, for the black family, they should. I don't even know if he has a black family. He might be adopted. I don't know. For the black family or his family, they should have not called the police. They should have resources already in place. Having an autistic son, you should already have the resources in place. You should already know what to look for, because this is very typical behavior of kids, some kids with autism. And you know that this comes with it, and you need to be better prepared to avoid situations like this. But instead, they called the police knowing the risk of what could happen, and ultimately they're responsible for what happened to their son.
So with that being said, like, with the parents having responsibility, some may not know who to call. I get what you're saying, like they should look into who to call if these things happen.
They do.
It could be a situation though where maybe their autistic child has never gotten this bad. Maybe they've been able to weather these storms, so it's just never come up. And this time it was different. This time it was, he just blew up a little too much and couldn't get him under control. Or maybe there's usually the dad's in the house, but this time he just happened to be at work or something like that. Or maybe he did it when he was a little younger and he was able to be controlled more, but now he's 15 years old. And so it's a little harder to subdue him at this age.
Right. Still, I that's still not an excuse. You know what I'm saying? Because even if it's out of control this time, if you don't have it under control even before this is going to be a constant thing. So I'm still going to stand on the parents should have done better instead of just calling the police, because the police have no type of outside training for those type of situations, what they would deem mental health.
We got Sean in the building. Sean was in the comments. It seemed like you fundamentally disagree that police, I guess, are okay. I'll ask this: do you think there's a situation where police are ever justified in shooting and killing someone?
I think there are most definitely cases where they're justified. Most definitely. Most times that I've been seeing, that's not one of them.
So in this case, what do you think they could have done? I know you're talking about the taser. Is that
yeah, the taser, non-lethal. My point to a police officer or anybody in that profession, if you're scary, don't clock in. The job is scary, right? So it's like people, my family's military, not me, my family is. So my thought process is people that join the military are joining the military for a purpose. They're not scary when they're doing that. Like that, they have concerns and they're trained properly, or maybe not. But if they didn't want the adrenaline, if they couldn't handle that, they would be at the library. They'd be at Walmart. Like they would be at a job that didn't But what's happening more times than not is the police force, they're hiring people that are scary. And when you're scary and when you don't come from a community, you don't value that person of the community. So what does that mean? That means now we're not thinking about non-lethal. The first thing is my gun. I was scared. Wait a minute, you're an officer. What you mean you scared? You shouldn't. That shouldn't be your first. That shouldn't be your first option, is to shoot somebody with your lethal weapon. That shouldn't be it for me. I don't believe it to be true.
So I'll push back on that, because how can we say that, well, if he's from that community, he would have valued that life, when black on black crime is so high within the black community?
Black on black crime, there's white on white crime. I'm at a part where there's Asian triads in Silver Spring. There's triad on like that. Wherever you live amongst your people, there's going to be a high concentration of violence. So I don't. That's
true, but
I
in
don't
the black
receive
community,
the violence of black on black, because that's a human thing. That's not a black thing.
it is, but it's unique within the black community in the United States, because in other communities, white on white crime, for example, is not one of the leading causes of death for white people, or Asian on Asian crime is not one of the leading causes of death. But for in the black community, black on black crime is one of the leading causes of death for other black people. So that's why I think it's unique in the black community, especially when we're saying, like, well, if you're from that community, you would value that life, when the data doesn't show that.
But we don't have data of people being from a community policing it in today's. So we can't even say what it is or what it's not, because the people that are policing these communities don't look like the people from the community. They drive into the community and they drive into the police force and go out and go in there and they patrol 8 to 10 hours, and then they leave and they go back home. That's today's stuff. So we won't even know what it's like. That's, again, in today's government, that's the part about, you know, what we want to change. Instead of saying, woe is me and it'll never be, we got to try something different, because the state, like, that quote of doing insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So if we see a problem in our communities, we need to figure out a way to do something different. So if the people come into our communities are harming the community and people don't trust them and they don't look like us, or maybe they do, because I don't believe the police force is white or black. It's blue. There's a blue wall. It's not black or white, and on the police side. So everybody, no matter what their nationality is blue. But my point is, people that come, if I come from an area, which I do, people like me should think about going back and and doing public service in that community. I come from it. I see it. I know the grandma, the granddad, the mom, the dad, the cut. Like, it's a different thing than me driving. Y'all know where I live at, but me driving to Bethesda. I'm not from that community. It's uppity white folks. I'm not from there. And maybe my thought process of somebody that will be in that neighborhood will be different because I didn't grow up with them. And again, it's a human thing, and maybe I should be better trained. Ty said that there should be better training, and I could agree to a piece of the better training part. I can see.
Let me ask you a question then. Let me ask you a question. Let's say that your mom was going. Let's say she was going out on a date with somebody, and she walked up to the front door, and the man that she was going out on a date with ran out the house with a knife and was charging her with a knife. Mm-hmm. Do you think that she would be justified in shooting that man?
My mother, she's a civilian. So yeah, she has no training.
But okay, civilian or not, right?
If somebody attacks anybody,
just on the face of it being a dangerous situation, can we acknowledge that that's a dangerous situation? Someone charging.
I can acknowledge that she's a civilian, so I can't even. Yes, that's dangerous for anybody, but specifically for a civilian, which my mother would be, and any one of us would be a civilian in that example. So yes, we're not trained to handle high tension situations.
Okay, so trained to handle that. So I think there's a difference between being trained to handle a situation and what actually happens if, for instance, you get shot with a gun or you get stabbed with a sharp object. Whether you're a civilian or a cop, that's still going to pierce your skin. You're still going to bleed. You still have all the same organs. I think that the training part is kind of misleading, because training does not mean that you can now take a bullet when a regular person couldn't, or you can get stabbed in your heart and your heart is a cop heart, so now it's going to keep beating or something like that. Like this, he was 2 or 3 feet away.
When you're trained properly in anything. So I do real estate. Mm-hmm. When I get real estate situations, my brain slows down. I can process whatever it is, the question, the situation, because I'm trained in a situation properly. I'm not overly paying for something. I'm not underly paying for something. I can say I'll call you back. Versus when I wasn't trained in this, and a realtor would come to me, I would just listen to whatever they say because I'm not wise in that. I'm not wise in that. My cousin is a Marine. He always says Marines, you know, they go into the most dangerous missions.
And they kill people.
For sure, yeah, for this country, yeah. His point was his Marine buddies. They get a large amount of people with the same mindset, and they train these certain mindsets for a certain mission. They won't get a cop. There's a reason why a cop is a cop and not military armed forces. They're scary on this side, the cop side. They're not. But these are the people they give guns to.
Isn't that a generalization? Because for me, it's like if you're that scared, you wouldn't even show up to the house. Like in this situation, he showed up to the house. He showed up to the house, and so I guess I want to understand what is scary, because it seems like that's being used anytime a police officer shoots someone. It seems like they should have gotten stabbed first, or they should have been on some John Wick type of stuff or some Neo from the Matrix and just like dodged it and slowed down time and stuff. But that's not really how it works in real life. So at what point is it like this person, because if he was that scary, if you watch the video, he could have shot him when he was running out the door. The
issue with police officers is that they take lives and they go home and we say, oh, the police officer will have, you know, they'll think about it for this amount of time. They'll be scarred. They took a life, you know, they killed somebody's son, uncle, brother. And while that's true, they'll be mentally changed. The person who they killed will never come back, good or bad, up or down. So the issue for me is that I don't see the same energy in white communities. I don't see the same force. I don't see the same, well, I had to shoot him. I don't see, when I see videos in suburban communities of police stops, and my wife gets mad at me because I have on YouTube, I got these YouTube channels are like police stops. They're like 20, 30 minutes, and I watch them. I love to see not what the news puts on, but I want to see from the body cam. I want to see it from beginning, from in his car to the end of whatever the end is, and I enjoy that. What I don't see, I'm gonna tell y'all what I don't see. What I don't see is white or black officers coming with that aggression on a non-black. It's not a you know, because like you said, police stops, you never know what they're coming up on, so you never know what they are. But my point is, overall, they're not killing white people. They're killing the African. I like black.
There are more white people killed by police every year than black people.
They're killing the black ones. So, and my point is the aggression. The same way that they treat us, they don't treat them. The same way that they give them grace, and they say, "Well, put your gun and put it down and put it." And I'm like, "Yo, shoot them already." But of course, I don't want them to shoot them. I'm saying that from my couch. I'm saying that from like, if it was me, they would shoot me. They wouldn't give me the grace. And my point in that grace, that word right there, the grace. The reason why they're giving these white people grace is because they're white, or they're white, you know, in that perspective. They're in a community that they value that. Where if I'm somewhere and they see me, and I'm not aggressive to anybody, I got my hood on, so the branding is something. But I say yes sir, yes ma'am to everybody. But if I was to turn around and say, what are you? Pow. Wait a minute. Why are you shooting? Why don't I get the grace? The answer is because they don't value me. They don't see me like they see somebody else of a different skin complexion. So while we're all committing crimes, and I'm saying that and, you know, being dramatic, but while we're all in a high stakes area, they don't give me the grace of giving me the time to see what it is versus somebody else. And white women, white men, just that white. Man, they give them all types of put it down. And they're driving away, and they're, you know, this is in different counties, different states, this is in different areas. This is a traffic stop. This is coming into their home. I'm like, wouldn't it be something if they would come into black communities and give them grace, like they're giving these white folks? I would love it.
In this situation, Do you guys think that happened in this situation where this cop was just out to kill someone black?
Nah, I think
I don't think he was out to kill.
I think we got to highlight a community issue as well, because again, most of these, I don't say most, some of these police officers are coming from different towns, different cities, all those things. But we also have to do better as a community for them to not come in and be on such a heightened awareness. If I'm a primarily white dude going into the city of Chicago, I'm already knowing that Chicago is active, not just from black people, but all people. But if I'm rolling through O Block, I know there's a chance that I'm going to run into some folks who are going to be on some demon time. And I think it'd be a lot different if we didn't approach it in such an aggressive manner. As soon as the police officers pull us over or whatever the case may be of, what you put me over for? Why are you doing? I ain't doing nothing. Automatically, I'm gonna think that's a red flag. I'm automatically gonna think you're suspicious. You're about to do something.
Because that's my issue, though. I see white people doing that more than anything else. White people getting out. What are you pulling me over for? What are you doing?
I haven't seen them get shot. I've seen them get beat up. I've seen them get body slammed to the ground.
But
I've seen body slam. I've seen body slam. Yeah.
How do we explain then the fact that there are more black or more white people killed by police than black people? If black people are just out here with targets on their back, how are there more white people that are being killed?
It's not about the targets. Maybe it is about target, but it's about how they approach, how they see the person. You know, it's how they see. It's how I'm seen. It's how we're all seen. If we're all being honest, we're seen in a different light than somebody that's non-black by police, by officers. You know, they may.
What is that based on?
The more they talk to us, they're prejudiced. That's what it is. I believe the people that the white supremacy of America. That's what I believe. I don't believe all white people are racist, but I believe this is a racist country. And I believe if they're honest, not me, because I already know it's true. I ain't got to convince me. But if they're honest, the branding of black people by the news, and this is all the news sources, shows out worse. And when they come across and they get a badge, and that's our problem with the police academy. It's 2 weeks, maybe a month, and you enforcing laws where somebody to be a lawyer takes them years to practice it. But you want to force it, you got a gun in 3 weeks. Wait a minute, the system is flawed. So now they already got a skewed perspective of non-black people, and now they got a gun, and now so stuff like that encourages the rough behavior. Now I've seen them rough up white folks, but when it comes to that gunplay, when it comes to like just coming in and like, you know. Now, granted, I don't know. I know where I live at, right? I know where I live at. It's disproportionate, you know. I don't believe in a news cycle for anybody's city. I don't believe in that. I gotta see it. Or I gotta go, there's something called Sky News. It's on the Fire Stick. Sky News is a lot of times you're overseas, but they have actual news. But if it's CNN, blah blah blah, Fox, I don't go into that. What I know is my lived experience, 41 years on this earth. I don't trust any police officer. I will never trust a police officer. I would never. Well, never.
Now, I think this is an interesting topic, and perhaps we'll have to do like a different live on it. We do have to cut it a little short. Ty has to get up out of here, but I do appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to have a part 2 of this conversation. But for now, we'll leave it where it's at, and so much more I want to talk about on this topic, but we can put a rain check on it, have the conversation another time. Thank you, Sean, for coming up.
Yes,
Hi, thank you for getting up early.
Yes, sir.
Well, you get up early anyways, but
Oh.
I'll see y'all in the comments.
All right,
oh man, yeah. Take care.
You too.